Welcome, welcome, welcome to Live Impact News on this Friday afternoon, a beautiful Friday afternoon, and we are very happy that Friday is finally here. Yes, it's been a long week, a lot going on this week. Hunter Forrest is here with us to talk about the weather, and I was just saying to Hunter, we need a Friday song, and just like that, he came up with one. How do you do that, Hunter? Do you want to sing to us what your little Friday song that you came up with?
Well, there were two that I kind of introduced this afternoon. One was Friday by Rebecca Black, which is a classic.
Okay, yeah.
It's Friday, got to get down on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's looking forward to the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Partying, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there was one a little bit more classic. If you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, but here's the thing, there's no rain this week.
We are not going to get caught in the rain.
So if
no.
you like pina coladas and soaking up the sun. Soaking up the sun, Sheryl Crow.
Yes, gonna soak up the sun.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that song.
We could have that one as well.
Mm-hmm. Got a few clouds behind you. Earlier today it was clear, but that's okay. Just a few clouds.
Just a few clouds. Nothing crazy going on today. Still a lot of sunshine. Going to be a beautiful Friday, a beautiful weekend. Temperature's a little bit cooler than average heading into the last weekend of May, which is hard to believe. Saturday, 75 degrees, mostly sunny. It'll be a breezier day, gusts 20 to 25 miles an hour, but a comfortable one. One thing you do want to keep in mind, even though it may not feel super hot out, the sun this time of year is still very strong.
Okay,
So,
got to have the sunscreen.
You gotta have the sunscreen. You're gonna need your sunglasses, but it's a great day outside. Temperatures right now hovering in the mid to low 70s. It's very comfortable, low humidity, not muggy at all. We're still about 8 to 9 degrees cooler than this time yesterday, sitting at 70 in Norfolk, 72 in Virginia Beach. It's 72 in Hampton and Newport News, 75 in Suffolk, 75 in Elizabeth City, and 74 down in Chesapeake. And over the next couple of hours, we're looking good. Any dinner plans will still be in the mid 70s, staying in the upper 70s through the afternoon. Plenty of sunshine and clear skies for the rest of our Friday. And the UV index today getting to around an 8, so only takes about 20-ish or so minutes to burn.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are outdoors for a longer period of time and you're doing, some exercises, going for a run, doing some yard work, may want to find some shade. Sunscreen certainly necessary, and sunglasses, which I always forget. I never bring my sunglasses anywhere, and I don't know why.
You just forget. You just don't think about it.
I just forget.
It's okay, Hunter. It's okay.
It's a bad habit I've gotten into, but I'm going to change it this summer.
Okay. We're gonna
Hopefully.
check you out in your sunglasses. Yeah.
But satellite and radar is looking good out there. We're going to be staying dry as we go through the day today and through this weekend. Again, heading into this evening, any Friday night plans, still comfortable around 9 o'clock. We're in the lower 70s. Clear skies. So if you're heading out to dinner, going for a walk, whatever pleases you on a Friday, it's going to be looking good. Saturday morning, it's already a warm start to the day in the mid to low 70s at 8 in the morning. But you'll notice there's going to be a cold front moving on in, heading into the mid-morning. So that's going to kind of keep temperatures at bay as we go through the day. So if you walk outside at 8 and you're like, wow, it's already 70, 74 degrees.
And some rain further south.
There's a chance for an isolated shower around the Outer Banks in the morning. That's really about it. It's a low-end rain chance, but then after that, we're gonna be looking good. But as that cold front moves on in, it'll kind of keep temperatures in the mid to low 70s through the day. So don't let the warm morning fool you, because it won't warm up a whole lot after that. By 3 o'clock, again, we're in the mid to low 70s still. Could be a bit warmer inland. But by Saturday evening, we are feeling a bit cooler and breezy, mid to low 60s. So if you have Saturday night plans, you have dinner, you may need a light jacket, I would think.
Well, it looks like it. I would think so. Be on the safe side.
But also look at Sunday morning, 40s. Brr.
Okay, that's cold.
That's cold. I'm thinking if you're waking up super early Sunday, you could see you could see a 40-degree mark on your thermometer. But by the early and mid-morning, 7, 8, 9 o'clock, it's going to feel much more comfortable. Upper 50s to low 60s. By the afternoon, the sunshine's sticking around. Pretty similar to Saturday. A little less breezy, still in the mid to low 70s. And then Sunday night, mid to low 60s, clear skies. So through and through a really nice weekend. Just not, super hot, comfortable. Low rain chances through the weekend. Maybe a few isolated showers on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
But that is really about it for the week. Here's a look at the most recently updated drought monitor. I'm going to go back to what it looked like last week. So
Okay, that's last week?
that's last week.
Okay.
And then this is this week.
Oh.
So not major changes,
Yeah.
but I'll point out there's a little bit less red.
A little less, yeah.
So
Out west.
yeah. A little less out west, a little less up north. But it's going in the right direction.
Going in the right direction. Yeah.
But still, for all of Hampton Roads, we're either under a moderate, severe, or extreme drought up in the eastern shore.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. But the main rainfall we got Wednesday wasn't included in this.
Right.
So there are still even more improvements than this.
And then, okay, and the monitor comes out again next Thursday.
Yep, every Thursday morning.
Every Thursday morning. And one of the things I did wonder about, okay, so we can expect some improvements because all that rain we got this week, a lot of it is not included in this. However, if it's dry for the next week,
Right.
could we kind of just stay at the same spot?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see like a major
big difference. Yeah.
I think it might be similar to what we saw this week with the little tweaks. Maybe even if that.
Okay.
Next week, but we'll have to see. But at least we've been getting something, and rainfall actually has been above average for the month of May. I'll pull it up. Let's see. This is a look at temperatures really quick. We've been all over the place this month. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
Oh, gosh.
But here's a look at the rainfall.
Okay.
So not
Not too bad.
this last week has been pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
We've received over 4 inches of rain for the month of May.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 days in a row of rain.
Yeah.
Some kind of rain.
So you love to see that. But picked up a little over 4 inches of rain this month, and that is above average. But still, we are below average for the year by about 3.5 inches. So still in a deficit, but we're moving in the right direction. But overall, things are improving for us here. But again, today, not expecting much in the way of rain. Sunny, upper 70s. to
Great
right around
temperatures.
80. Yeah, really, really nice. A little bit cooler around the eastern shore, lower 70s. 78 in Pocosin, 77 in Newport News, 79 in Williamsburg today, 80 in Edenton and Hertford, 71 in Kill Devil Hills, 73 in Knott's Island. Overnight tonight, a bit warmer, a bit more mild than what we saw last night. We'll be in the mid-60s pretty much around the region. 66 in Norfolk for your overnight low, 64 in Franklin, 66 in Cape Charles, 63 in Gloucester, and 67 in Hampton. Down into eastern North Carolina, same deal. 68 in Edenton, 66 in Kill Devil Hills, 64 in Ahoskie. And another look at your Saturday. Beautiful. Mix of sun and clouds, mid-70s. But again, you'll notice temperatures really start to drop off by the end of the day from that cold front. So we'll be getting back into the mid to low 60s by your Saturday night. But during the day, not looking too bad. And again, a bit breezy. 72 on Sunday. And then by June 1st, this Monday, back to the 80s.
But just 80.
But just 80.
But just 80.
So
yeah.
nothing crazy.
And then down to 78 for Tuesday and Wednesday,
Yeah.
and then 81. So, we will take those temperatures as long as we can because we know what's coming. July,
Yeah.
hottest month of the year. Oof.
just excessive heat, excessive mugginess,
Humidity. Yeah.
humidity. Oof. You just walk outside, it's like a curtain of air. Just hitting you right in the face. But I do have to say, it feels like a nice warm hug sometimes. You know, compared to if you walk outside in the middle of winter, it's more of like a
slap in the face.
slap in the face.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But this is going to be a really nice week. So,
Yeah, for
hopefully
sure.
people can get out and do something to enjoy it. Those morning or afternoon strolls,
Yeah.
you know, getting those steps in. That's what I got to build my steps back up. I was doing so well, Hunter, and then I slowed down. I don't know.
Janet,
But I've got to
right
get
there
back
with
on
you.
it. I'm going to get back into it. And so I'm looking forward to that. But that's a great looking 7-day forecast.
For sure.
Like that one.
And like I was saying earlier this morning to you, Janet, in case anyone missed it, Monday is the beginning of the month, and it's a Monday, so the beginning of the week, after a beautiful weekend, so you're able to get outside, recharge, rest up.
Yeah.
So it's like a good, and it's the start
Of hurricane season.
of hurricane season and basically summer. So it's like a great kind of reset, a restart, get in the mindset that.
So in other words, Hunter is telling us that we cannot have the Monday blues.
Correct.
We have to come in Monday excited and ready to go, and because of the beautiful weekend, and then Monday being very nice as well. Okay.
A fresh start.
A fresh start. We're going to try to think about it like that. But I can't make any promises. All right, Hunter, thank you so much. We always love when you come by. Come by anytime. If you want to talk about something else, you know, you can.
Thank you, Janet.
All right, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back. Okay, I was going to hit it to you. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News on this Friday afternoon. We got the weather report from Hunter, and yes, we are in for a beautiful weekend and a beautiful all next week. So, yeah, we're going to get out and enjoy it. Let's switch over to the UN Secretary General's daily press briefing. He held that just a little while ago. And one of the things that the United Nations did today, they added Israel and Russia to what is called a UN blacklist of countries suspected of committing sexual violence in conflict zones. And this is a move that prompted Israel's foreign ministry, to say it would sever all ties with the UN Secretary General. We know that in this briefing they did talk about this so-called blacklist and sexual violence in conflict zones. So let's listen in.
Vladimir, happy Friday to you, my friend. All right. On Monday, I think you can guess what will happen. Ambassador Leonor Zalabata, permanent representative of Colombia and president of the Security Council for the month of June, will be here to brief you on the Council's program of work. We will confirm to you the exact time of the start of the briefing a bit later, but we expect it around 12:45. As you heard from Pramila Patten not long ago, the Secretary General's report on conflict-related sexual violence was issued today, and it said that cases of conflict-related sexual violence verified by the UN in 2025 rose sharply from 2024, marked by extreme brutality and overwhelmingly targeted women and girls. A total of 77 parties, including state and non-state actors, are listed this year for cases of conflict-related sexual violence, including parties added to the list in previous years. The report says that in 2025, documented cases of sexual violence as a tactic of war, torture, terrorism, and political repression surged, while multiple and overlapping political, security, and humanitarian crises worsened. Abduction and sexual violence form part of a broader pattern of attacks by armed groups in remote areas of Burkina Faso, Mali, and northern Mozambique, with girls as young as 11 being forced into sexual slavery and repeated rapes in captivity, leading to unwanted pregnancies. The Secretary General said that sexual violence was perpetrated in detentions in multiple settings, such as Israel and the State of Palestine, the Russian Federation, and Ukraine. In Myanmar, patterns of sexual violence continue to be used in detention settings as part of the repertoire of political violence to intimidate and punish opponents. The full report is online, and you just, as I mentioned, you just heard from Pramila Patten. Moving to Lebanon, our peacekeeping mission there in southern Lebanon continues to observe intensive Israeli Defense Forces air and ground activities across the UNIFIL area of operations. The IDF activity was also reported north of the Litani River. Yesterday, UNIFIL reported 350 firing incidents attributed to the IDF and 25 to Hezbollah. Also yesterday, a UNIFIL convoy carrying an injured peacekeeper was stopped by the IDF and delayed for about an hour before being able to proceed. As a reminder, all parties have to ensure that UNIFIL has unrestricted access and freedom of movement in the conduct of its activities mandated by the Security Council. On the occasion of the International Day of the Peacekeeper, which you know is marked today, but ceremonies in New York will take place next week on Friday. But in Lebanon, UNIFIL held a solemn ceremony in its Nekora headquarters, which included a tribute to the fallen peacekeepers. As you will recall, 6 UNIFIL peacekeepers have been tragically killed in the hostilities in southern Lebanon since March 2nd, with several more wounded. In his remarks at the ceremony, the general heading UNIFIL, General Diodato Abanyara, stressed that a political and diplomatic path remains the only viable solution to the conflict, adding that UNIFIL remains committed to supporting the parties in restoring the cessation of hostilities and creating the conditions for a permanent ceasefire. On the humanitarian front, our OCHA colleagues report that humanitarian access and emergency response capacity continue to face severe constraints. In Nabatea, strikes reportedly impacted a key road in Marjayoun that took place yesterday. That road is critical to emergency medical evacuations, also for aid and humanitarian workers to move about, and for people's access to essential goods and services. Elsewhere in Lebanon, local authorities tell us that repeated evacuation orders are forcing families to flee repeatedly and then return to their homes as security conditions shift. The humanitarian and resident coordinator for Lebanon, Imran Riza, said today he's deeply alarmed by the intensification of hostilities and the impact of evacuation orders by Israel have on communities across the country. In a statement, he referred to reports that airstrikes have harmed civilians as they attempted to leave areas under displacement orders, stressing that international humanitarian law clearly states that civilians, including health workers and first responders, must be protected. Meanwhile, we and our humanitarian partners continue to provide critical assistance across the country. Since March 2nd, the World Food Program and its partners have distributed more than 11 million hot and cold meals to people affected by the conflict in Lebanon. And turning to the occupied Palestinian territory, our OCHA colleagues tell us that last night an Israeli airstrike hit a residential area less than 600 feet, that's about 200 meters, from 5 humanitarian facilities in Deir al-Balah. Luckily, no casualties were reported This followed an order from the Israeli military to shelter in place shortly before the strike. No staff members were injured, and the team is currently assessing the damage. We reiterate once again that civilians, including humanitarians, must always be protected. As for crossing, since Sunday, Karim Abu Salam has been the only operational entry point into Gaza for humanitarian and commercial goods, as the Zikim crossing has been closed. We continue to call for more crossings to be open and, of course, more critical supplies and assistance to be let in. Meanwhile, between the 11th and the 17th of May, partners working on protection have provided mental health and psychosocial support, as well as other protection, to more than 10,000 people, half of them caregivers and children. Services included recreational activities, art and drama sessions, counseling and parenting support, which was provided in shelters, it was provided in camps and schools and other displacement sites in Gaza, across Gaza. Partners remind us that to continue these services, particularly for children and adolescents, we need fuel, we need safe spaces to provide these services, and we need more staff as well as basic resources. Turning to the reports of the drone that hit a residential building in Romania, I can tell you that the Secretary General is alarmed by the reported overnight drone strike involving a residential building in the city of Galati in Romania. This reportedly injured 2 people. Just yesterday in his remarks, as you'll recall, the Secretary General told the Security Council, warned the Security Council about the dangers of further escalation of the war in Ukraine. We strongly condemn any attacks against civilian infrastructure wherever they occur. Moving to South Sudan, our friends at the World Food Program are telling us that they're urgently scaling up the emergency response in Akobo County, where hundreds of thousands of people are facing catastrophic levels of hunger and malnutrition amid escalating displacement and conflict. According to the latest IPC update, parts of Akobo are experiencing IPC Phase 5, which is catastrophic levels of hunger, which is the highest level before an actual famine. Since launching its emergency response 3 weeks ago, WFP has reached more than 60,000 vulnerable human beings in Akobo County, including in Akobo. By the end of this week, a 33-truck convoy operated by WFP expected to deliver more than 200 metric tons of food and nutrition assistance, along with an additional 100 metric tons of emergency relief supplies. To sustain life-saving operations like these during the rainy season when roads are impassable, WFP will continue to deliver aid by air to ensure uninterrupted assistance reaches isolated communities. More than 60 WFP aviation flights, including airdrops, airlifts, and humanitarian air service passenger flights, have already transported some 430 metric tons of critical supplies into the area. That being said, as always, we need more money because we have more work and there are more needs. WFP urgently requires $266 million to continue providing life-saving food and nutrition assistance, as well as critical logistical support for the wider humanitarian response in South Sudan until the end of the year. Quick update from the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Ebola. As you have seen, Dr. Tedros, the head of the World Health Organization, arrived in Kinshasa yesterday. Upon his arrival, he spoke to reporters and said he traveled to the DRC to show his support for the communities impacted by the outbreak. He also asked the international community to increase its support for the Ebola response so that health workers get the medical supplies and the protective equipment they need. In Kinshasa, he met with the UN country team and our humanitarian partners. Meanwhile, in Bunia, WHO teams are establishing portable drinking water supplies at the Ebola treatment center there. This will ensure reliable access to water and also strengthen infection prevention and control. I wanted to say also that we are saddened to learn of the passing of Lieutenant General Chikadibia Isaac Obiakor, former UN military advisor for the peacekeeping operations and a distinguished Nigerian military officer. General Obiakor served as force commander of the UN mission in Liberia, following his appointment by then Secretary General Kofi Annan. He then went on to become the first African national to serve as military advisor for peacekeeping operations here at UN headquarters in New York. Following his retirement from active military service, General Obiakor continued to serve the UN, including by leading boards of inquiry on conflicts in South Sudan, Syria, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Throughout his career, he demonstrated remarkable leadership, professionalism, and commitment in the service of international peace and security. Our thoughts are with him, his friends, his comrade in arms, and the people and government of Nigeria. Couple of international days. If there was ever a day that I think deserved a year, it is the International Day of the Potato. I like the potato. This year's theme, Where Potato Grows, Livelihoods Flourish, highlights the vital role potatoes play in supporting food security, rural livelihoods, and local economies, from the Andean highlands to communities across Africa, Europe, and Asia. And Sunday is World No Tobacco Day. No Tobacco Day. Ahead of the observance, WHO says at least 40 million children from age 13 to 15 worldwide use tobacco products. WHO urges government to take stronger action to protect young people from tobacco and nicotine addiction. Chris, I have a quiz. Which is the 5th most spoken language in the world?
French.
5th? Seriously? We're gonna take away your citizenship. Portuguese. Exactly, Volodymyr. Portuguese. How many member states have Portuguese as their official language, do you think? 9. Only one of them is in Asia. Which one is that?
East Timor.
What is its official name? Timor-Leste, exactly. So we say thank you to our friends in Dili. The payment from Timor-Leste brings the total number of fully paid up member states to 100.
All right, I just failed that quiz that he was giving to the reporters there. But the UN Secretary General's representative, a daily briefing, is interesting to sit there and listen to everything that he was talking about, because it gives you an idea of so many of the challenges that are going on in countries all over the world. Just he talked about the increase of cases of sexual violence in conflict zones, again, where he named Israel and Russia, added them to a list of countries that violate that and have become countries that target women and children in conflict zones, talking about the strikes that are happening in Lebanon and the repeated evacuations and how they have provided 11 million hot meals for people who live in Lebanon. You know, the strikes are coming from Israel. This is all sort of part of that war with Iran and the U.S. He mentioned the one entry point into Gaza, and they're calling for more entry points in order to get more supplies and humanitarian supplies into Gaza. He mentioned the hundreds of people affected by hunger in South Sudan. So it was interesting just listening to all of the things that are going on around the country. You don't really realize that when you're sitting in the comfort of your home, that there are so many people across the world who are suffering. All right, we're going to come back in just a moment. We're going to take a break, and we're going to talk about housing affordability right here in Norfolk. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. I want to talk to you about a new mayor's housing commission that is happening in Norfolk. And the co-chair of this commission is Councilman Carlos Clanton. And this is a commission that's looking into public policy recommendations to improve housing affordability. We know that housing affordability is an issue that is affecting the entire state and the entire country. It is at the forefront of issues that so many policymakers are talking about. Joining us is Carlos Clanton. He is here with us. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk about this important issue.
I appreciate it. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah. So first of all, tell me the purpose of the Housing Commission.
So essentially, the Housing Commission's purpose was, I'll take it back. When I came on the council about a year and a half ago, the mayor asked each of the new council members, what are your top 3 things? And when I was going on the campaign trail, people kept just saying housing affordability. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
I can't afford. And so I asked the mayor, I said, how can we address this? Maybe we can stand up a commission so we can look at some policy things. And so the mayor said, I agree, let's do that. And so I've been working with my good colleague, Councilman Jeremy McGee, and we're the co-chairs. And this is set up so that we can look at all the things that we have. We found that there's a lot of resources, a lot of different programs that are happening, but they're happening in silos, and how we can better make those things work together. But then the other thing also is data. Let the data drive our decision making. And so this first interim report is really pulling back a lot of the different layers so we can understand what the issues are here in the city.
And I guess when you talk about data, you're talking about that 2023 housing study that
and
was
some
put
new
out.
information that we've gotten, yeah.
Okay, I know that said Norfolk has concentrated poverty and racial segregation continue to undermine Norfolk's housing market and drive its affordability changes. And poverty in Norfolk is acute compared to the region and state for all population segments. That is something that reached out to me when I read that, just realizing the challenges there and some of the historical challenges. You know, we can talk about redlining.
Oh, yeah.
We can talk about redlining and how that is still affecting us today. Is that something that's this historical significance of things like that? Is that something that you're also looking into?
Absolutely. One of the things when you look at the old Tidewater Gardens or Tidewater Park, if you've lived here all your life and knew various different names, that is some of the very first public housing in the entire country. It was right here in the city of Norfolk. And now we have Young and Terrace and Oakleaf and so many others there. But what that symbolizes is a concentration of poverty. And you see so many different things, which we've also looked at in the report, is that when you have a concentration of poverty, you also see a pull on resources and services to be able to support those individuals. And so that's another thing that kind of spiraled like that out of this whole looking at it was people first, which is a different way that we've looked at things, which is not just the brick and mortar, but we have to also invest in people. And so when you start looking at the historical things, I think that's where we've missed a mark in the past, but where we're making a turn. And so when you see all these great buildings going up in the new St. Paul's quadrant, it's not just the building, but you see great success stories that are coming out about the residents who are coming back.
Yeah, and how's that project moving along?
It's moving along real well. We'll
Yeah.
be done in a year and a half. We just cut the ribbon maybe about a week and a half ago on Unity Place. And that's and the neat part about it is that it is a mixed income community. You've got market rate, as well as individuals who are subsidized. But the thing about it is you can't tell who's who. And that's the way it should be.
That's the way it
Giving
should
people
be.
the opportunity to have mobility, economic mobility, so that wherever you are, you should be able to afford all the benefits of a quality neighborhood and being able to be close to downtown. But as your income goes up, you don't have to leave your neighborhood. You can actually just move your situation as to how how we're subsidizing and supporting your housing.
How do you define affordable housing?
Oh, wow. That's one of the things that's challenging because even in our study, they wanted to use housing affordability as something from the state's definition. I'm actually pressing that we do something a little bit more localized for Norfolk. But nationally, they would tell you that housing affordability is looking at 30% of your take-home. If 30% of your take-home pay are below, then you're not stressed. But if you're over that 30% of your take-home pay, then you are stressed as far as your housing affordability.
It's nice to hear, because one of the criticisms that I do hear about Norfolk, some people think, oh, they concentrate too much downtown. You see all these apartment buildings going up, and they cost, the rent is pretty high, close to $2,000 sometimes for a one bedroom. How do you spread that out? How do you make sure that this love is going to all the neighborhoods in the city?
And that's another thing that will be a byproduct of the actual policy that we're going to put in place in the fall. I hear that as well. I represent Super Ward 7, which is the other side of town. I get a Park Place and Lambert's Point, but really the east side of the city. And so when you look at this, St. Paul's really is taking up a lot of the funding for housing. It was the first time we went in and did a massive kind of one-time going in, doing this transformation. But what it's going to allow us to do, and I like to be a person who is a planner, and rather than being reactive. And so this policy is going to allow us to get council, for one, on the same page, because there are different thoughts of, I only want to see market rate, or I want to see more affordable housing, but how can we find something in the middle? But then it will, when we drive the policy, and council can approve that, then it will drive the budget. And so when we finish with St. Paul's in a year and a half from now, that will put us in a position to be able to talk about the other things that we can fund that will support housing affordability across the entire city.
Okay, absolutely. And something that also is concerning, because you talk about money, $4.5 million. That's the community development, block grant money that Norfolk gets each year?
Correct.
And that is on the chopping block in this latest budget by the Trump administration, and as well as some other, housing programs. How do you combat that? That has to be a challenge.
That's something that keeps me up at night.
Okay.
Because in our city manager, because you look at so many different things that those funds are used to support. Housing vouchers. And, I was mentioning some other individuals that housing vouchers, even myself, I benefited from that. My mother benefited from a housing voucher. We stayed in a 2-bedroom duplex growing up until my freshman year in high school. My mother finally got off the waiting list, and she got her housing voucher, and it was the first time I got my own bedroom, and my sister and my brother had their own rooms. And it was just that sense of being able to have a home that we could be proud of and just to be able to go have a good night's sleep. But when you think about what's on the chopping block, there are going to be a lot of individuals who just cannot afford and will not have that ability to have that extra funding, that voucher to fill in the gap. Children are not going to be able to have the ability to have a place that they can call home and go to sleep at night. So some of our rehab programs, that's another thing, because it's not about just building new housing. It's also about being able to have funding in place so that we can have our naturally occurring housing, which is rehabbing some of the older housing stock that we have, which could become first-time home owner opportunities for individuals. So it is something that consistently, that's why of all my council colleagues, I'm the one that's traveling, going to the conferences, connecting. But I will also say that there are a group of local elected officials like myself from surrounding cities who are meeting. And we're talking, and we're trying to work out how we can come together to really move something meaningful forward for housing.
I imagine, how do you approach the Trump administration? Because I think, some of the things that I've read, that they're looking at this as falling under diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we know that we have seen a very aggressive pushback on DEI. And so programs that they feel like, benefit DEI that fall into that category, those are the ones that are being targeted. And I guess it can leave you just feeling, I guess to some extent, helpless, but you all are working to get around that?
We're working to get around that. I will also say that in many cases, when you look at what the Trump administration pushes forth on those, you'll see a lot of that DEI concentrated around urban centers. But when you start looking at some of your rural areas and individuals who also benefit from there, that's where you see a lot of pushback from even his own party, because it's not the normal, what you would try to say, DEI that they're pushing. I will say, as far as on a local level, it takes money. And so when you're not trying to increase taxes, gas is high, food is high, all these different things, you got to find different mechanisms. And so there's been talk about how do we work with HRV, with the Hampton Roads, with a Redevelopment Housing Authority, which is their for-profit arm there, to be able to do some funding. There's even a discussion about, in this plan, establishing a housing trust fund, because there are ways that we can be able to put in public dollars, but then leverage money that banks have and credit unions have and others to be able to help support housing. So we're trying to be very innovative. And one of the things I consistently say is that I don't want to be prescriptive. I don't want to be so restrictive in a way that saying you have to do this, but create those guardrails, create our non-negotiables, and allow business and industry and those who work in this space to say, here are all the tools. How can you fix it for us? And allow them to come back who do this every day.
Yeah, every day. And what does that do for a person? I mean, when you are finally able to get the keys to a home, all of a sudden, it's not just about your living conditions and having something that you can call your own. It's about self-pride. It's about self-confidence. It is about, talk a little bit about that.
I will say, we have our programs with the city, but a long-standing program, the Habitat for Humanity, built 2 homes in my ward, and just to see the parents, and you have to put your sweat equity in there. So you have to come out, do your service hours, but they partner with the city to be able to help with the financing and get those things in place. But to see those parents, to see those mothers, that father that may be there, and the children. And I literally walked with one of the littlest ones who was showing me this is where my room is going to be. And I can't help to say that I had a flashback going, wow, I remember when I could say this is where my room is going to be.
Yeah,
so you do have that sense of pride, but I think it's also some of the things that go back into this report. The report highlighted the fact that 56% of the residents in the city of Norfolk are renters.
Right. Yeah.
We also have over 48% of all of the subsidized housing in the entire region is right here in the city of Norfolk.
Right here.
So when we look at that, it's like, okay, data has given us, this is our point. And so we've talked about, even at a commission level, so how do we measure success? And the thing is that we want more home ownership opportunity. The reality also is that homes in the city of Norfolk that's 98% built out isn't going to be a house on an acre of land. It's going to be more of our missing middle. So you're going to have condos and maybe 3 stacked up type of apartments or condos in that respect, or even just some innovative ways of being able to create I know I was in Nashville, and they call them tall and skinnies, where you've got these smaller, but they're taller, 3-story type of buildings. So ways that we can create density, but also create opportunities for home ownership. I also will put out there, Janet, did you know that you could use a Section 8 voucher to pay for a mortgage?
No, I did not know that. No.
So there's a whole program in place where individuals can use their Section 8 voucher to pay for a mortgage. They go through an entire training to teach them about finance, credit, to get them. These are individuals, again, who were living in subsidized housing, but they're going through the process so that they can be able to be a homeowner, because they understand that generational wealth and that opportunity.
Yeah.
But the challenge around that, though, is that you got to have that house in about 250, 280,000 range. And we just don't have enough housing stock. And so that's the other thing that we've got to address, is like, we've got great programs, we can make those things work, but we got to make sure that we can build homes that are in that price range so that people can afford them.
Right. How are you working with the state? I do know that when Spanberger came in, that was on her list, housing affordability and trying to increase supply, and maybe changing some of the zoning regulations to have more places where you can build houses. I mean, how is that working out?
We're still assessing, but I will say that there are some bright spots in there. There were some things that were a little concerning, but there were some things that are great bright spots. One of those being the faith-based opportunity. We have a lot of our, you think about it, maybe a little bit more than Norfolk, but you have a lot of churches that own land. But there's a bill that went through that would allow them by right to be able to do housing on land that they already own. And I've already been approached by several churches here who are looking at being able to do that because we have a big shortage in affordable senior housing. And I also see that as that part of that ecosystem. We have some seniors who, your child or your children have left the area. They're clear across the country. They're not probably coming back over here, but you want to downsize, be able to sell that home, but you just want to have a sense of community and to have somewhere where you can, spend your good days and have a sense of community. So building some senior housing is a great opportunity for us, and it's one of the things that I also look at because we talked about school consolidation and closure in Norfolk Public Schools.
Right.
Well, we're not going to put commercial things right in the middle of a neighborhood. I think that those are great opportunities to build senior housing within a neighborhood because you could have someone who actually had a house down the street who could sell that home, move into this new community here with other seniors, and that house now can become a first-time home opportunity for a family.
Yeah, and it's keeping the seniors in their community, the
Exactly.
community where they have built some roots and good connections and relationships, where they feel safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not trying to kick people out. And I think that's one of the misnomers that when people hear about change or they see things are moving, you see all that work that's happening in the old Tower of the Gardens and you see St. Paul's, well, we're kicking all these people out.
Right.
And it's not the case. What we have said is that people first was the plan in the program. We want you to come back. But we're going to give you the tools so that you can survive and thrive in this new environment. Because the reality is, just like you mentioned with this administration, they're cutting. They're cutting programs. They're getting out of the real estate, building a business of having these large public housing communities. And so we're trying to be proactive and get ahead of that and come up with some creative ways to ensure that we can take care of the folks who live here.
Excellent, excellent. Now, speaking of resources, it's about informing people and letting them know what's going on. You do have something coming up pretty soon.
We do. We have our home ownership forum that the Norfolk Redevelopment Housing Authority, along with the City of Norfolk Housing Department, and other partners have come together. It's going to be at Norfolk State University next Saturday on January the 6th from 9 to 12.
June 6th, okay.
Yeah. June. We're jumping. You're right. I'll tell you, and trust me, I'm not trying to go back to winter.
No.
I was glad that was over. But June the 6th, in that morning, it'll be from 9 to 12. It's free and open to the public. Individuals can come in. If you've just been thinking about, okay, I don't know where to start. I would love to be a homeowner. This is a place where you can come in. There's no judgment. You get down and give you all the information in their workshops, and then you go from there in their classes that are free to help you get your financing in place. Like we also offer $40,000 to support you in your down payment and your closing cost. I think it was about a year ago, it went viral. Because people, one of these social influencers found out that was happening in Norfolk, and it was like, wow, it was $60,000 at that time.
Okay.
But those are one of the other things. How can we fund that to help more individuals? Because that could become a barrier to somebody becoming a homeowner. So
Right.
we've got some creative things that are out there, but how can we pull all those resources together to really make an impact?
Excellent. So a year and a half, you said St. Paul's will be done. What does Norfolk look like 5 to 10 years from now?
5 to 10 years, part of that report talked about our two major areas for development. MacArthur Center, Military Circle.
That's a good question.
Yeah. So no matter what, I always tell folks there's going to be mixed use. And you're going to need to have some tax generating opportunities, but also housing. And you'll have everything from subsidized housing to market rate, but you got to be strategic about it. So I would probably say in the next 5 years, you'll see a lot of movement on what happens at the old MacArthur Center site. And also, you'll start to see what's going to be taking place at Military Circle.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because we've been wondering.
Everybody's wondering. Trust me, I've been in my meetings and folks have asked me, so what's happening? And there's a lot that's happened, even in Military Circle in preparation. But the thing about it is I remind my residents, the city's not a developer. We prepare sites and make them site ready so that we can lure in a developer. And we really want the developer to put their money on the table and not use a whole lot of subsidized taxpayer dollars, because then that takes away from doing something else. And so we're waiting to get the best deal that we can get for a project that will meet the needs that we need to get in place that'll benefit all of our citizens.
Oh, excellent. And so MacArthur's not going to be a casino.
We already got one of those, and that'll be opening next fall.
Okay, next fall. I just, I was wondering. I said maybe they're going to try to become like a little Atlantic City, but no, okay.
No, all I can probably say is think Town Center.
Think Town Center. Okay,
Think
Town Center was
think
like mixed use.
reconnecting our downtown, meeting the needs of housing, meeting the needs of sense of community for those who are coming here. One thing that I also push is that Norfolk is really building on its destination tourism, our cruise ship industry,
Yes.
the casino. So we want to lure people here, and that's one of the campaigns. I sit on the Visit Norfolk board too, but it's one of the things we talk about as a region. We have the airport, but it's kind of the door that opens you up to everything from ORF, go to Virginia Beach, or ORF, go to Chesapeake, or to Suffolk. But there's something for everybody here, and so destination tourism is a big thing that we're all kind of working as a region. How do we get people here? How can we get them to enjoy themselves and spend their money so that we can be able to benefit and show those resources back in our neighborhoods to benefit those who live here?
And is the idea to make Norfolk, maybe downtown, more walkable?
Yes.
Yeah, because you go to cities like
Yeah.
Charleston, Savannah,
Yeah.
And you can just do everything without a car, and those are smaller places. And,
I
and
think
Norfolk definitely has that potential.
you have the potential. Honestly, the mall was great for what it did. I opened that mall up back in college. My first job was there.
Okay.
But the thing is that it is huge, and it takes up so much of the street grid. And so I think that there is a concerted effort to see how we can reopen that back up, and something that will complement Granby Street and not take away.
Okay.
And so for those who live here, you can have a good place to come and meet up with your friends and meet up and have dinner, or go get coffee or whatever it may be. But then also those who are coming in, the 8,000 people who come here every week on a cruise ship, can come in and have something that they can do and they can also enjoy.
Right, Leah, you live over there. Are you enjoying walking around and going to the restaurants and? Yeah.
I love downtown.
You love
Norfolk. Yeah.
Donna, I'm trying to give you more.
I mean, it's like I feel there's more businesses starting to come out
Yep.
there and more things popping up. So it's you notice the changes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And First Fridays is coming back.
Okay, First Fridays, they're coming back. That's
they'll come
good.
back.
Want to change the subject and talk a little bit, because just and we're covering this story today, and you said this happened in your district, and that was the I guess it's a triple shooting where a 60-year-old woman has passed away, and this was on Gulf Street. What can you tell us about that incident?
For what I know so far, is that there were, and our chief will make more announcements about it, but that there were two young men who were related. From my understanding, I think they were cousins, and they got into a shootout. Over 40 rounds were shot, and unfortunately, the 6-year-old mother, grandmother, aunt, passed away as a result of it. And so I know that their efforts right now, team members are meeting right now with community leaders there. And as soon as I finish here, I'm headed over to talk about the resources that we can provide into the community and to that family. But it just takes us back to this entire, it's starting to warm up. It's that summertime. Today's the last day of school here in the city of Norfolk.
Oh, okay.
And so
that's early.
Norfolk and Portsmouth, if I think about it. But it's trying to keep young people, and it's something passionate to me because I work in juvenile justice in Portsmouth. So just, it's senseless killings, and it's just not, the individual's not valuing life. And so it's something for me, honestly, that we're going to get out there. We've got Community First, a lot of our community violence interrupters who are there, who are on the streets, talking to community. But a lot of times when you see shootings like this, they're gang related. And so we don't want some retaliation. And so a lot of times when you don't hear of another shooting, it's because of our police officer and the hard work that they're doing along with the community group like Community First who are out there, our community violence interrupters.
Yeah, and we've had a couple of incidents. There was the, I guess the young man in the traffic stop that just happened, and then before that there was the stepson and the stepfather and the lady at the convenience
not
store.
too far down the street from my house. And what I gathered from that one, this was again mental health. You're coming out of Mental Health Awareness Month, but from my understanding, that young man hadn't been on his medication for over a month, got into an altercation with the father, and then shot through the screen door, hit his stepfather, and then did not know this woman, this clerk, and got into an altercation with her, argument, and then shot and killed her. And then he committed suicide and killed himself and left his car running. And someone called in because they just saw this car running, just sitting in the middle of the street. So it was just a lot going on there, but it really dovetails to a lot of different things that we're constantly dealing with. You know, mental health awareness, and the other shooting with the police involved when there. From what I'm understanding, there is that that individual had warrants that were outstanding in Virginia Beach, and when his estranged wife was contacted, she was like, "I'm glad you all were able to catch him because he was on his way to inflict harm on her." And so, unfortunately, he lost his life in that situation there when he with the officer. But I just tell folks to stay prayed up, but most importantly, we have to, as a community. This is why I really push, especially with mental health awareness, and making sure that we have individuals who are on staff to be able to de-escalate things. But some things, unfortunately, we just can't get to.
And when you talk about mental health and these young people, what is not being done? You know, when you think about, you know, people talk and they say, if we only had ... or if we only, is there something that comes to mind that you think is just really needs to be done, but maybe it's too challenging to get done, it's too expensive? What's not being done?
So I think when you hear me mention that our kids are getting out of school right now, and so they'll come back earlier. That was done really to address brain, that
brain drain,
the summer drain there. But it's also a time when we look at, okay, if you don't have a summer camp, if you are, and you know that mom or dad, if you've got both of them in the household, they're working all day and you're home. We have Parks and Rec, we have a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, we can't reach everybody. And if we had more money, and we could just say, hey, school stops, but every kid is in a structured program to keep them involved, we could do that. But then I also, serving on the school board, prior to doing this, I'm a strong believer in everything starts at home. And unfortunately, everyone doesn't have a two-parent system, or, I'm a product of a single parent. But a lot of times we have a lot of latchkey kids where they have no adult supervision. And so you have spaces. And so I just encourage that, if we've got, the city can do its part, but if we've got churches and other nonprofits and other groups who are doing things to get those young individuals involved so that they're doing something productive, and that they're learning and they're having fun, so that they're not sitting around, for the opportunity for someone to utilize them for something that's bad. And that's where you've been seeing a whole lot of these teen pop-ups now. And it's just, it's something different. I said, I never thought at my age I'd be going back and saying, well, during my time, but really it is. I would never have thought of it.
It's changed so quickly.
It has changed a lot.
You could be 30 years old and say, well, back in my time,
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately. And then I did see that they did arrest somebody else in the teen takeover, that bizarre event with the fire and the flamethrower and
and
donuts.
it's happening everywhere. I mean, this is a regional discussion. We, in the Hampton Roads Planning District Commission, I serve on that and represent the city there. We talked about it. Hampton has had those issues, and so you have these car meetups, and we had for a while had an issue with the bikes coming down on the street and doing different stuff with the people on the dirt bikes and things. But this is a new crave. It's a new fad that's out there, these meetups. We're even having the challenge in our parks. We've had to step up police presence. We had gotten word. We have literally a team who are scouring social media, looking for these pop-ups and things, just so that we can make sure that we can keep the public safe and that we have the presence there to diffuse things.
Yeah. Gosh, Mr. Clanton, thank you so much.
Thanks.
This has been a wonderful discussion. Promise me that you'll come back.
If you want me, I'm here.
Yeah, we would love to have you back. We have this platform now, and I like it because we're able to, like you said, more context and, talk about things more in depth. So I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. All right, and we'll be back in a moment. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. That was a great discussion with Norfolk Councilman Carlos Clanton talking about housing affordability and also talking about some of the recent violence in Norfolk. We're going to stay on that topic of violence and head up to Charlottesville to UVA. UVA Health earlier today, they held a media briefing where they talked about a new violence intervention program with the hospital. Brittany Nash, she spoke. She is a licensed clinical social worker and a team lead for UVA Health, the University Medical Center there, and spoke about it's a hospital-based intervention program. So let's hear more about that.
About our new hospital-based violence intervention program here at UVA Health University Medical Center. In the middle is Brittany Nash, who is the team lead for the program, and on the left side of the screen is Brian Nielsen, and on the right side of the scene is Martavius Terrell. They are both violence intervention specialists here with UVA Health, and they're going to walk us through this program and what it's designed to do and how they hope it's going to help the community. So I guess we'll start with a really basic question for people who aren't familiar. Can you just kind of describe for us what is a hospital-based violence intervention program?
Yeah, so a hospital-based violence intervention program is a program within the healthcare system that allows us to provide additional services and resources to patients that come into the hospital after they have been injured as a result of a community violence incident. And so when I say community violence, we're talking about the patients that are coming in that have been hurt from either a gunshot wound, stabbings, or physical assaults. This program allowed the hospital to hire 2 violence intervention specialists who are able to meet with patients at bedside, offer emotional support to the patients, talk about how we can keep the patient safe, and then most importantly, how we can prevent re-injury.
And maybe give us a sense of why UVA Health thought it was important to start a program like this.
Yeah, so I'm going to read some statistics because I think this kind of paints the picture. So from the research that we have found, up to 47% of trauma patients are high risk for loss to follow-up after discharge. And up to 45% of violently injured patients experience re-injury within 5 years. So UVA definitely thought it was important to have this hospital-based violence intervention program, which we call the HVIB. Because what we want to do is we want to make sure that patients are actually attending their medical follow-up appointments and also are being connected to the resources to help them be successful when they do discharge from the hospital. And so we know that sometimes patients are fine a month or 2 after they discharge. However, it could be 6 months down the line, something pops up. The good thing is that our violence intervention specialists are able to work with patients up to a year after they discharge, constantly checking in just to see if things pop up and how we can help them, as well as provide emotional support for patients on their recovery journey.
Gotcha. So it sounds like really the goals of this program really are, again, to, at the heart of it all is really to prevent re-injury for the folks who participate in the program. Is that fair? Are there other goals as well that are part of this?
Talking about the hospital-based violence intervention program. We're gonna step out of that for a moment, go live to Washington, D.C., where some more of the Epstein survivors are speaking. This is following testimony by Pam Bondi earlier this morning, where she appeared before the House Oversight Committee. Let's listen in.
We were hopeful. But in the last 6 months, we have seen anything but truth, transparency, and justice. Survivors deserve answers about why their private information has been released not once, not twice, but 3 times, even after their attorneys told DOJ that their names had been released. They deserve answers as to why key records remain withheld. They deserve answers why some names of those who exploited these women were redacted time and time again. They deserve answers of why critical leads that could identify additional perpetrators, enablers, and buyers have not been fully pursued. As a former prosecutor, I understand investigative leads. And these files, the 3 million that have been disclosed, contain lots of investigative leads. They are there in black and white, and the survivors deserve to know why we are being told that these leads are not being followed. Former attorney Pam Bondi's testimony should never happen behind closed doors, in a room without cameras and without the public being able to see what is asked, what is answered, her inflection, and her body language. After months and months of victims' names being revealed again and again, and nude images of some of these victims being released to the American public, now you're asking them to trust a closed-door process where she can decide when she wants to go off the record. This is patently wrong. Survivors have testified again and again. They've filed police reports, they've spoken to the public, they've spoken to you, the media, they've asked for meetings with DOJ. Let me say that again. They have asked for meetings with DOJ, and maybe someone's gotten a meeting, but these survivors sure haven't. They have relived their trauma again and again in the hopes that the government would finally provide them with truth, transparency, and justice. And I can assure you of one thing: we will get there. It may not happen today or tomorrow, but these women are not going away. We're going to get there. And so once again, Epstein survivors are back in DC. They're here today. They're willing to speak to all of you. They're willing to meet with DOJ. They're willing to meet with Republicans. They're willing to meet with Democrats. They are willing to meet with anyone, because for them, this is not about politics. This is about their lives. And they are ready to answer your questions, even if Pam Bondi and DOJ does not. With that, I'm going to introduce my friend and colleague, Charlene Rochard.
Hi, my name is Charlene Rochard. In some of the pages of these files is evidence of a teen model who traveled the world in the fashion and beauty industries, and in that world is where I met Jeffrey Epstein's network. The same pages were ignored by Attorney General Pam Bondi. Today, fired former U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi will appear before Congress about how the Department of Justice mishandled the Epstein files. This mishandling may violate the Epstein Files Transparency Act, federal privacy protections, and DOJ procedures for safeguarding sensitive evidence. She clearly has a problem with transparency, as she is now appearing only in a closed-door, unsworn setting and will not be filmed in a process that shields her from answering the hardest questions. Under her watch, millions of pages of Epstein documents were released in ways that protected the powerful while exposing survivors. And because of this, she could be stripped of her law license due to the egregious violation of the Crime Victims' Rights Act. Authoritative sources show she is under scrutiny for other potential legal violations, including subpoena noncompliance, false statements, mishandling evidence, and violation of federal law. Congress and the DOJ are now examining whether those actions cross into criminal activity.
Okay. All right. We were listening to one of the survivors of Epstein talking, and it sounded like there have been several, I guess, attempts today speaking to the media following the testimony of Pam Bondi, some before she started talking, some after she spoke. That sounded like that was before. We do know that Pam Bondi did testify before the House Oversight Committee. It was not under oath. It was not videotaped. And you heard one of the survivors there, a couple of them take offense to that and saying that she absolutely should never be behind closed doors, and saying that they cannot trust the closed door process. We do know during Bondi's testimony that she refused to answer questions on Donald Trump's involvement in the release of the case files of Jeffrey Epstein. And she's also standing behind the Trump administration's release of the case files as she talks to lawmakers who are scrutinizing a process that was delayed and included personal information of some of the victims. And that's something that you heard them talking about. They're angry about some of the redactions that were in the files, basically saying that the redactions were of the perpetrators and the names that were revealed were of the survivors. And that's something that they want some answers about. Now, do we have this again, Leah? In fact, I think they're showing one of the files here. Can we go back to them? That is Ms. Stein. I believe she is also an Epstein survivor. Let's listen in.
Are exposed while perpetrators are protected, that tells us something. When investigative leads are ignored, that sends a message. When transparency is withheld, that should cause concern. It tells us that the pursuit of justice has become secondary to the protection of institutions and powerful people. And that should concern every American. Because the question before us is not whether these crimes occurred. The question is whether we as a nation are willing to confront the full truth of them. The tragedy of the Epstein case is not only what happened to us, it is that so many opportunities to pursue accountability have been missed afterward. I'm here today because survivors deserve better. The American people deserve better. We all deserve dignity, transparency, and accountability. And after all these years, we deserve to know that justice in America is not reserved for the powerful, but available to everyone. Because justice delayed may be justice denied, but justice abandoned is something far worse, and we are not giving up this fight.
Could you say your first and last name again?
Again, listening to the survivors of Epstein, and they've had so much to say, still in so much pain, and wanting people to understand their stories. Let's go live to, the FIFA World Cup is coming up on June 11th. It's going to be here before you know it, a huge event. There are at least 11 different cities across the country that will be hosting various matches. So security, very, very important. So let's listen into a news conference going on right now about how security is going to be handled.
Ahead of any threat. The eyes of the world will be on South Florida, and the world will see this region at its absolute best. As co-deputy director of the FBI, I can say with complete confidence that the law enforcement professionals across South Florida are prepared and committed to keeping this event safe. Our goal is clear. We will protect the community, the fans, the athletes, and everyone through our combined might. The partnerships in this room are not new. They are time-tested and mission-hardened, as I mentioned. When those first matches kick off on June 11th, Florida will be ready. Our collaboration, our planning, and our commitment will leave a lasting legacy for FIFA and for every major event that comes to this state in the future. The world will be watching, and together we will make sure they see the very best of the United States of America and what Florida has to offer. I thank you for your time and attention, and I want to turn it over to our special agent in charge of our premier field office here in Miami, SAC Brett Stiles.
Good afternoon. So FBI Miami's #1 priority for the 2026 FIFA World Cup is really simple. Maintain a safe and secure environment for the teams, the fans, and the South Florida community. And we'll do so in close collaboration with our law enforcement partners, many of whom you see standing up here with me today. Collectively, we have spent months preparing for this important international competition, which will bring fans from across the globe to our nation. We welcome them and want them to enjoy their time in South Florida both safely and securely. And I can say with confidence that when we are ready and will remain vigilant throughout this tournament, we want to keep the focus on the matches and the festivities. One area I want to highlight for our communities and our guests is the use of unmanned aerial systems, or drones. The Federal Aviation Administration has established temporary flight restrictions around World Cup stadiums and venues. And for us, This means our Hard Rock Stadium and the Fan Festival at Bayfront Park. If you have a drone and you're planning to use it during the World Cup matches, keep in mind that flying a drone in these areas is strictly prohibited. The FBI and a select group of law enforcement partners have the authority and the capability to intercept and seize drones that violate these restrictions. This includes civil penalties, criminal fines up to $100,000, up to a year in prison, and a seizure of your drone. And there will be no grace period for violators. Drone operators should always check airspace restrictions before flying a drone using FAA-approved Before You Fly apps or visiting tfr.faa.gov. And if anyone sees unsafe drone activity, report to law enforcement immediately, and let's keep the skies safe. My comments and the Deputy Director's comments will also be available in Spanish and Portuguese immediately following the press conference. I'd like to introduce Chief Manny Morales from the Miami Police Department as our next speaker.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon. It is an honor to be here. And first of all, I would like to thank the Deputy Director Bailey from the FBI, Special Agent in Charge Skiles, and the FDLE Commissioner Glass for being here today. The collaboration meeting we had today is the reason why Miami is strong. Miami stands ready for whatever comes our way. My message today is incredibly simple, right? For our residents, our visitors, we've been preparing for over a year to make sure that these events that are happening in South Florida go off without a hitch. To any individuals, bad actors that have nefarious intentions, are thinking about even coming down to South Florida, what you see behind me is the reason why you will regret the decision if you come down here with bad intentions. We stand ready to protect our community. We stand ready to showcase the best Miami has to offer, to not only enjoy the games, but to highlight the beautiful area in all our cities. And the cooperation that we bring together is truly inspiring. So we're looking forward to a great series. And as we host the 23 days of Fan Fest in the beautiful city of Miami, our beautiful downtown and our absolutely iconic Bayfront Park. So come on down and enjoy the games. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeffrey Vincent, the Southern Regional Administrator. As the world comes together for the FIFA World Cup 2026, the FAA, in coordination with the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice, will establish temporary no-drone zones here in Miami and across the United States over match venues, fan festivals, and certain team locations. A no-drone zone means unauthorized drone flights are strictly prohibited in the designated airspace and surrounding grounds. During major sporting events like the FIFA World Cup, the FAA uses temporary flight restrictions, or TFRs, to secure the airspace and to help protect participants and attendees on the ground. On match days, unauthorized drone operations will be prohibited within a 3 nautical mile radius of a host stadium up to 3,000 feet above ground level, with additional restrictions of 1 mile and 1,000 feet at designated fan event sites. The FAA recently launched the Drone Expedited and Targeted Enforcement Deter Initiative to accelerate the identification and enforcement of drone violators. Deter will be used at the World Cup in support of enhanced drone enforcement. We encourage you to enjoy the tournament, but please leave your drone at home.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Glass. I'm the Commissioner of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. And I just want to say what you're seeing here today is a teamwork, partnership, and not one agency can do it all. We have to do it together. That means you too. That means you out watching this. As you heard the SAC talk about and the FAA administrator talk about, what you need to pay attention to is on drone activity. If you see it, call it out. If you see something, say something. That's the campaign we always have here. 1-855-FLA-SAFE. 1-855-FLA-SAFE. That will get it there so that way we can pay attention to it. You heard the federal law enforcement piece on that, but I also will tell you the state law enforcement piece on that. We have drone operators. We've already been through the school thanks to the FBI. But at the same token, we do watch drone activity in their flying. There is state statutes out there. If you decide to modify your drone, don't do it. Don't do it because there's felonies involved in that. Don't do it. If you try to skirt and not do the right thing, we will come after you. You're in the free state of Florida, but you're also in a law and order state. You're in a law and order state, and we want you to come here, have fun, have a blast. South Florida is one of the meccas of all visitation of anybody wanting to travel and have a good time, but at the same time, enjoy this great sunshine we have in this great state. On behalf of Governor Ron DeSantis, the cabinet, and our legislators, I want to welcome you to the South Florida area, but prepare yourself and have fun, but prepare yourself to pay attention to suspicious activity. And that way you can let us know if there's something that doesn't seem right, we need to know about it. And I will tell you, again, the chiefs, the sheriffs of South Florida are second to none. And our federal cooperation here with the state of Florida is second to none. There's not one gap in between us. The only reason why you're seeing gap in between us is because we got tape on the floor. They told us to step that far apart. Usually we're like this, but you don't have that problem. So anyway, I just want to say again, thank you, Deputy Director. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having us here. And have fun at the games. Have fun. Thank you.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Adam Stahl. I'm the Deputy TSA Administrator. I want to thank the Deputy Director and the FBI for having us here today. What you see here today is a federal, state, and local coordination really of the highest professional caliber. And we're honored here to be one of many behind me today. Through robust security partnerships and extensive coordination at key venues across the transportation system, the agencies and the organizations behind us are really working extremely hard, both in here in Miami, but also across the country, to really ensure the safety and the security, as the Deputy Director and others said, of the participants, the players, the attendees, and the residents within Miami and the greater nation. So Miami, of course, has a unique spotlight with 500 million ticket requests, including #1 requested match in all of the World Cup. It has a unique spotlight on it, and of course, the folks behind you and myself are prepared. We're working extremely closely, again, with FBI, South Florida law enforcement agencies to really ensure that these operations are both risk-based but also intelligence-driven, and that's incredibly important here. On the transportation side, we're to really ensure the safe, secure, and seamless movement of travel, both in Miami and across the broader nation. We're really focused on augmenting these resources, both staff and technology. It's going to be positioned at Miami International, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood International, Miami Metro bus stations, Miami Stadium, North Perry Airport, and rail, of course, including Brightline and others, and Tri-Rail. As well, TSA has deployed advanced security technologies, again, to ensure the seamless and secure travel of the large uptick of individuals coming in and out of the airports and other areas of critical infrastructure. We heard a little bit about drone technology, and so, again, TSA, and again, with the Deputy Director as well, and the FBI are really working all hands on deck to ensure that we're rapidly addressing this unauthorized drone activity that we're hoping, again, encouraging folks to leave the drones at home, as the FAA and others mentioned. We're continuing to support also TFRs, or temporary flight restrictions, to secure our airspace in coordination, again, with the FAA and the FBI. And so there's going to be a zero tolerance. You heard this from state and locals and federal as well. Zero tolerance for reckless or criminal drone use, full stop. And so penalties are going to include substantial fines, criminal charges, incarceration, drone confiscation, as well as a district court violation notices to unlawful drone operators. Really wanted to thank, again, the FBI for having us here today. And this is really what interagency looks like in its highest forms. Thank you.
Yes, I was hoping you might comment in the collaboration and partnerships, Deputy Director, what the role of ICE.
Well, the president signed an executive order that details where each federal government entity fits in the structure. And so that's available through that executive order. And what I would say is that the minute the president put pen to paper, his executive agencies, under his direction and leadership, instantly began operationalizing that vision. And it includes not only across the lines of the federal government, but also in close coordination and partnership. Because look, it's not just about securing the matches and securing those fan fest events and those base camps. It's about all of the other activities that go on that put stressors on local agencies, local law enforcement. We know that although there are sanctioned events, fan fest events, that every bar with a television and a happy hour is going to host events of their own. And so that creates unique challenges from a staffing and law enforcement perspective at the local level. So it's not just those federal partnerships, but integration at the local level as well. And I would just direct you to that executive order.
There were scenes of chaos 2 years ago outside of the stadium when fans rushed from other countries during a high-profile match. Is the FBI coordinating with local officials and authorities to prevent those kinds of scenes from playing out again?
Absolutely. Look, every event like this carries certain amounts of risk. However, the partnerships, the coordination beforehand, the lessons learned help mitigate against those risks. Because what I would tell you is that the law enforcement standing behind me and the men and women that put on that uniform to keep these communities safe every single day, they have experience hosting Super Bowls, Miami Dolphins games, special events, concerts. And so the law enforcement professionals that stand with us here today in partnership with their federal colleagues have the experience and the intelligence necessary and the manpower and equipment necessary to mitigate those risks.
For fans who don't get to read the executive order, should anybody be worried about immigration marching into a game and arresting people?
Look, this is about safety and security of the matches and of the fans. And so there's an anticipated influx of visitors to our country to these matches. And so we're going to facilitate that in cooperation and coordination with all federal law enforcement agencies and in compliance with federal statute. Yeah, there are no specific credible threats, but there are always risks. And so, again, we are remaining vigilant to mitigate against those risks. And I think Director Kash Patel recently has outlined his concerns that include drones, which we've addressed extensively today. They include the potential for lone wolf attacks, and they include cyber scams. And so across all lines of effort, the FBI in partnership with our local state and local law enforcement agencies stand ready to mitigate against those threats. The FBI Miami field office is uniquely postured to address these concerns because of the top tier special teams and squads that are the best in the country, the very tip of the spear, that are located and staffed here at the Miami field office. I'll take one more question.
Like my colleague mentioned over there with the match that happened in 2024, in part it was because there were people who were not ticket holders on stadium property. During the FIFA World Cup, will people without tickets be allowed to enter the vicinity of the stadium?
So there will be security zones that are set up to mitigate against those risks. And again, that's at the sound discretion of the local law enforcement officials that are collaborating with us. And so I don't want to get into tactics, techniques, and procedures. But what I would tell you is that if you don't have a ticket to the game, don't go to the game. That we have Fan Fest events set up specifically to accommodate fans who want to have a combined fan experience but can't afford a ticket or can't get a ticket. And then I would also warn individuals against cyber scams, people who are selling tickets on a secondary market that aren't legitimate. And so we need to be conscious of that as well. And I know that our state counterparts stand ready to assist with any kind of consumer protection issues that may arise from that risk as well.
Also, human trafficking, is that a part of the plan?
Yeah, certainly. Look, what I would say is that that's an everyday occurrence, right? And certainly we see upticks in that kind of criminal behavior associated with major sporting events. And so it's something we're very conscious of. And we have plans in place to address that kind of collateral criminal behavior. With that, I'll say thank you for your time.
¿Están listos en español? Muy buenas tardes, yo soy Manny Morales.
All right, so there you have it. FIFA World Cup coming to the United States in days on June 11th. And that was the FBI in Miami talking about some of the security apparatus that they've put together to keep people safe. And one of the things you definitely heard, no drone zone. If you plan on going to the World Cup, leave your drone at home. They will seize it. They will take it. Yesterday, the FBI in Atlanta, they also held a news conference, and they also talked about how they've been training and they're prepared for any threats, and that there are no known threats at this time, but they are prepared for anything that may come up, including threats that might be a hoax, and reminding people that it is a federal crime to lodge a threat against an event like this. So, yeah, June 11th, FIFA World Cup, pretty exciting, coming to the United States, and that's a story that we will absolutely keep following. All right, going to take a break right now, and we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to Live Impact News. I want to share with you a couple of stories that we've been following today. One happening overnight about 2:35 in the morning, and that was a horrible, fatal bus crash that happened in Northern Virginia in Stafford County, I-95 southbound, 2:30 in the morning, and apparently 5 people have died as a result of that accident. 34 people were injured. According to Virginia State Police, traffic was heading southbound and they were approaching a work zone. So obviously they started to slow down at this work zone as they were approaching it. You know, overnight there's a lot of work that usually goes on some of our major roadways because it's a time when you don't have as many people traveling. So the cars began to slow down, but the bus did not slow down, and it hit 6 vehicles. So the 5 people who died in the accident, they were all inside the vehicles that were struck by the bus, according to law enforcement. Just a tragic, tragic situation. This happened at the mile marker 146. So this was in Stafford County. The bus ended up in the median, and that's the video there that you're looking at, the bus laying on its side. There was a tow truck there that actually moved the bus earlier today. Police have not said the factors that led to this crash. Charges are pending. Investigators with the National Transportation Safety Board, they're working with state police to try to figure out what happened. We don't know what caused this bus driver to continue and plow into those vehicles, whether or not the driver may have fallen asleep, going too fast, not paying attention. Who knows? Hopefully that will come out in the investigation. We did learn that the bus is operated by E&P Travel. That's based in Kings Mountain, North Carolina. And then, according to our sister station, they did speak to a representative of that travel company by phone. They had very little comment, but they did confirm that the bus was traveling from New York City to Charlotte. It was an overnight trip. I know that the buses, we have buses in this area that leave pretty much every day, overnight, going to New York City, leaving from various parts of the Hampton Roads region. So this is not an uncommon trip at all. A spokesperson from an area hospital in that area, Mary Washington, said that 19 people were taken to Mary Washington Hospital overnight. 7 of those were taken to Mary Washington Hospital's trauma center, and that's in Fredericksburg. 2 people remain in critical condition. We know that some people were also taken to Stafford Hospital in Stafford, Virginia. About 12 people were taken there. Those patients were said to be in good condition, and they have been discharged. But the tragedy is that 5 people did die in this accident, and we have a couple of people also in critical condition. So just a terrible story coming out of Northern Virginia. And also, we had a local accident. I want to tell you about that. This was in Chesapeake, and this happened about 9:49 in the morning. And according to Chesapeake Police, a preliminary investigation shows that there was a black sedan that was traveling southbound on Johnstown Road at a high rate of speed. It collided with a red SUV that was turning onto Johnstown Road from Britwell Drive, and the collision caused the black sedan to lose control, leave the roadway, and strike a landscaper who was working in the area, and the landscaper died in that accident. The drivers of the vehicles, they were transported to local hospitals in this area with minor injuries. So another tragedy that occurred right here in Chesapeake. And again, the bus accident. So we are certainly keeping those people in mind and the families of those people who perished in mind as well. All right, going to take another quick break. Should we take a break, Leah? Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back with more. All right, welcome back. There is a lot going on today on this Friday. Something else that happened today. You've heard about the $1.8 billion anti-weaponization settlement fund that was created by the Department of Justice. A judge has temporarily blocked payouts from Donald Trump's $1.8 billion anti-weaponization settlement fund. This was a ruling that came down today by a U.S. district judge, and the order specifically bars the administration from taking any further action pursuant to the creation or operation of this particular fund, including transfers of money or consideration of claims from individuals who may argue that they are victims of political persecution. Now, this was created by the DOJ for President Trump agreeing to drop a $10 billion lawsuit that he filed against the IRS. And this was supposedly part of a settlement. A lot of legal analysts, experts believe that the lawsuit itself probably would have been dismissed, but before that could actually happen, the DOJ entered into an agreement with Donald Trump, and this fund was created. Very controversial on both sides of the aisle. People are saying that a lot of people are calling it a slush fund and worried that some of the people who can benefit from this fund are the people who attacked the Capitol on January 6th back in 2021, that those people might feel like they were, that the political system or the justice system weaponized itself against them and could actually apply for a claim out of this fund. But for now, this has been blocked. It's a temporary block while the judge continues to examine sort of the legal ramifications surrounding this fund. So we're going to continue to watch that and see what happens with that fund. Okay, we have some new sound from Epstein survivors. This has been a big issue today on Capitol Hill after Pam Bondi testified before the House Oversight Committee. She did not testify under oath. Her testimony was not videotaped. Only a written transcript has been provided. And we are told, I guess reports are coming out, that there were a number of questions that she did not answer, particularly as it applied to President Trump. So some of the Epstein survivors have been speaking out all day, as well as some of their advocates, like Representative Robert Garcia. Let's listen to some new sound that we just got in.
Good afternoon. I'm Melanie Stansbury, and I represent New Mexico's 1st Congressional District. And I want to be clear today that one thing is clear, that this is absolutely a cover-up and a smokescreen to prevent Pam Bondi from having to testify under oath pursuant to a congressional subpoena. Now, let me explain a few things about what we have seen in the room. First and foremost, if Pam Bondi was complying with a congressional deposition to testify under oath, Department of Justice attorneys would not be intervening and essentially trying to stop her from answering basic questions about her conversations with Donald Trump, with the administration, and trying to claim that she does not have to answer questions. In fact, as the ranking member said, she has been asked multiple times about the Trump administration, about her conversations with the president, about her conversations with other administration officials. And when asked specifically about a conversation with Donald Trump, one of the Department of Justice attorneys intervened and said that she did not have to answer the question because it was a voluntary interview, and said, in fact, quote, "We don't even have to assert privilege because of that," and said, quote, "We refuse to provide answers." That means that the United States Department of Justice is intervening on behalf of Pam Bondi to stop her from answering questions about what happened in the cover-up of this case and her conversations with Donald Trump, and is asserting that she does not have to answer questions because she is not required to, because she is not being deposed under oath. This is a cover-up. This will be remembered as the largest cover-up likely in American history, and it is clear that this interview is a smokescreen to try to show the American people that they are complying while they are not. Now, I also want to point out that there is not a single Republican in the room besides the chairman. For a supposed group of individuals who care deeply about
justice for the survivors, not a single Republican could be bothered to travel across the country today to come hear testimony from the former Attorney General. Not one. They're not here. And they won't allow this interview to be put on video for the American people to see. And that means that only those of us who are allowed in the room can tell you what is actually happening. And what I can tell you is that when we started to ask difficult questions, Ms. Bondi got combative. The DOJ attorneys began rolling their eyes. They started intervening, and they tried to shut down any questions about the president and this administration's handling of the files. Now, I just want to end by saying this could all end now. The administration could end this by releasing the 3 million files they still have. In fact, Pam Bondi confirmed that they had 6 million files in their possession and have only released 3 million. She said that today. They could end this now by investigating crimes of known perpetrators that we have seen in the files. They could end this now by turning the Epstein files into Epstein trials, and they could end this now by actually speaking with survivors. And Pam Bondi herself said today that she had never spoken to a single survivor. She said that multiple times in the room today. So it's time to end the cover-up now. I turn it now to Mr. Maxwell Frost of Florida's 10.
Thank you. I'll be really quick. Every single one of our questions got one of 3 responses. 1, not to my recollection, or I don't know. Number 2, talk with Todd Blanche. I don't know anything about it. And number 3, I am not talking about Donald Trump. Those are the 3 answers we're getting to every single question that we ask. This actually really reminds me of our deposition with Alex Acosta, where he obviously didn't know anything about anything going on in his own damn office. It's the same thing with Pam Bondi. Either she doesn't know, or Todd Blanche was running the entire operation. So, okay, we're going to want to talk with Todd Blanche. And we're hoping that not just Chairman Comer, but every single Republican on this committee join us in issuing a subpoena to him, because we need to speak with him, because obviously the former Attorney General is in that room placing every single thing on the current Acting Attorney General of the United States. And the fact that she won't answer any questions relating to Donald Trump is disgusting and shows just how much of a cover-up this is. First, it started off with her saying, I'm not going to talk about any private conversations I've had with the president. Okay. Then we ask questions about the president generally. And she says, I'm not answering any questions having to do with the president at all. Anytime we ask for any information relating to this administration, somebody from the Department of Justice sitting right next to her puts their hand over the mic and tells her, do not answer that question. It's disgusting. It's a cover-up in broad daylight. And what they're hoping will happen is we'll walk out of here and we'll stop, but we're not going to stop. We are committed to this. We're not going to let this story die. We're not going to allow the survivors to just go off, right, and people forget about this. We're going to keep fighting for justice. We're going to talk with Todd Blanche. We're going to talk with people, and we're going to get the answers here. We're not going to let this story die. It's a disgrace what Pam Bondi's doing in that room. It's the same thing she did months ago when she came to try to evade the subpoena by coming in and speaking to us, not under oath, but we're going to keep this fight up.
I got it. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm Summer Lee, representing Pennsylvania's 12th Congressional District. And listen, my colleagues have really laid it out. But what we've been seeing has been a consistent theme, not just since last August, when our ranking member Garcia and I were able to help to secure the initial subpoena to actually bring in the DOJ to release all of the files to our committee, but it has been an ongoing theme here. What we just witnessed from Pam Bondi, what she demonstrated was the fact that they believe and that they are an unaccountable DOJ that's running cover for and protecting an unaccountable president and administration. But the real problem is that while we might expect Donald Trump to move in this way, someone who has himself been named in these files, we shouldn't expect that Chairman Comer, that our Congress, that Republicans here, sorry to make it political, but those folks who do have the power to actually use what influence, what tools we have with the United States Congress to actually bring about some justice right now, and to allow her to continually evade justice, to evade questions as we've seen today, it's a continuation of the indignity that they've inflicted upon our survivors, The indignity they've inflicted upon the American population, who have continuously had to watch an unaccountable justice system, a two-tiered justice system in our country, and people all over the world who are looking to see if the United States will get their shit together. And the reality is that they are refusing to do that. Every step of this last year that we've gone through this process, which is, as we know, simply a renewed process here, because survivors have been fighting for justice for decades now. But since the Congress has taken up this particular fight in the ways that we've been able to by being able to press for subpoenas, we've seen over and over and over an unwillingness of power to be accountable to people, an unwillingness of our Congress to be a co-equal branch of government with the presidency, with the executive branch, and surely an unwillingness for us to actually demonstrate that we are willing to put women, children, and survivors first. So right now, what we want to do and what we're committed to doing is continuing to keep the main story, that justice doesn't have a time limit. And no matter how much Comer or Bondi or Blanche or Trump or whoever else fights back against the truth coming out, that this fight will continue, that we will not relent until every single person who has been impacted, not just by Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell, but everyone who's being covered up or hidden, and the fouls or in people's personal knowledge that they won't share truthfully with us, and whether they're unofficial transcripts or real depositions on the record. That it's important that they recognize that not only will the oversight dim, but also the American people will not back down. The survivors have not and will not back down. And it's important that we continue to keep this pressure on them and remind them that legally binding subpoenas must be answered. So right now, Pam Bondi is in non-compliance with 2 for herself. And we have to keep putting that pressure on them. And we'll continue to do that. I will hand it over now to Rep. Supermanian.
Thank you. I just want to talk about the survivors for a second. Thank you so much for your words. They're here today. They were with us in Palm Beach a few weeks ago when we had a hearing there. And they've asked the Department of Justice repeatedly to meet with them. They've asked repeatedly to release certain files to them at least, such as their witness statements. And so we asked Pam Bondi about that today. She said it wouldn't be appropriate to meet with them for some reason. She said she doesn't recall anything about them asking for their witness statements. She's forgotten all about all of their requests, even their public letters. It seems as though she was ignoring survivors this whole time, which is pretty astounding to me. So I also asked her pretty basic questions about whether she knew about any effort to look for Donald Trump's name in the files before they were released. And she says she doesn't recall. And so I think it wasn't that long ago before they were releasing the files, yet somehow she doesn't recall things that happened about 6 months ago. And then finally, going back to Ghislaine Maxwell, she said she wasn't involved at all in the process of moving her to another prison, but she wasn't sure if that new prison was even a lower security prison, which factually it is. She also thinks that the Bureau of Prisons is doing a great job, and she said that these things happen all the time because you want to protect some of these folks in prison. Well, that's true, but we really need to protect Ghislaine Maxwell right after she just talked to Todd Blanche about the Epstein files. Seemed too coincidental, but again, she doesn't recall a lot of other things. It was a really unimpressive and disappointing interview today, but not surprising to us. We're not going to stop our investigation. I'm going to hand it over to Yasmin Ansari.
Thank you. Today's ridiculous charade has made astonishingly clear that the United States Department of Justice has been weaponized by Donald Trump to ensure that the most massive cover-up in American history is carried out. And this is being enabled by Republicans in Congress, led by Republican Chairman James Comer and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. This entire Epstein investigation, led by Chairman Comer, has been absurd. We have 2 legal subpoenas against former Attorney General Pam Bondi. She is supposed to be here under oath today on video, answering questions for the American people about her role and the direct hand that she had in this cover-up. Instead, she is deflecting, she is refusing to answer questions, and she continues to refuse to answer specific questions about the President of the United States. It is so clear that whether it be Pam Bondi, whether it be Chairman Comer, whether it be Mike Johnson, The entire party is terrified of Donald Trump and his retaliation as it pertains to the cover-up of the Epstein files. It's unacceptable. It is notable that she continues to blame Todd Blanche and Kash Patel. We, of course, want to speak to them, but I think what I want to make clear to the American public and to everybody, and to the survivors especially, is that we are not going to give up on this. I think Republicans believe that they just kind of carry out these nonsense transcribed interviews and don't show up here today, that we will forget about this. We are just getting started as it pertains to accountability and justice for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and any other rich and powerful person in this country who perpetrated these crimes. I'm going to hand it over to Congressman Mitt.
Thank you very much. Congressman Dave Min out of California 47. And yes, I have an election in 4 days, very important one. Robert Garcia and I have our primary elections on Tuesday of next week. But I'm here rather than in my district because this is important. We looked the survivors in the eye last year and made a promise to them that we would try to find justice, find transparency. Republicans also looked these women in the eye and did not follow through. It's a shame that James Comer is the only Republican here today because this is the biggest cover-up in history. This should not be a partisan issue. Now, as a former law professor, as a lawyer, I just want to note a couple things that struck out to me. One, the fact that she is appearing as a voluntary witness today, voluntary interview, is important because she is claiming that she's not complying with the subpoena. She's claiming the subpoena doesn't apply to her because she's no longer with the Department of Justice. But at the same time, as has been noted, you have 2 DOJ attorneys in there. If it's a personal interview voluntarily done, why is the DOJ so heavily involved? It doesn't make any sense unless you think about it as a cover-up. The second point I want to make, we got a pretty important insight today into the flimsy basis on which they're not turning over 3 million documents right now. They claimed earlier that Pam Bondi claimed that documents that were related to any decisions to prosecute or not prosecute were being withheld. That is all the witness interviews, it's all the evidence gathered by the FBI. There's a reason we don't have the smoking guns, we don't have the video evidence, we don't have the witness interviews, because they're claiming that's all privileged. And that is a bunch of bullshit, pardon my language. Any lawyer will tell you that our subpoena, whether it's the oversight subpoena or the Epstein Files Transparency Act, specifically applies to these types of documents. We don't have the real information here because they're claiming it's all privileged. And that is something that we need to get to the bottom of. This, I think, actually exposed a lot of what they're doing right now. We need those documents. This should give us the basis to overturn them. And I'll just echo what everyone else is saying in there. It's a sham in there. They are not answering any questions. And with that, I want to turn it over to my friend, James Walkinshaw.
All right, so there you have it. Those are the Democrats who were part of the panel of people who were interviewing Pam Bondi about the Epstein files. And as you can hear, they're calling it a sham, cover-up, a lot of different nouns and adjectives being used to describe that process. This is a story that obviously is not going away, and we're going to continue to follow it at 13 News Now. I want to thank you for spending some time with me, and now I will be back at 4 o'clock for 13 News Now at 4, 5, and 6. Have a great weekend.